This is my favorite mini tripod for my multitude of cameras and camera accessories. And I did a video called my many mini tripods because I do have many miniature tripods. But this is my favorite, and it's my favorite so much that I actually have multiple copies. I have 4 exact copies of this right here. I have a 5th one over here with a different top plate, and I'll talk about that in a sec. And the thing about this tripod is that you cannot go out and buy this as a single kit. I had to find the pieces and put them together, and it consists of 3 main pieces. Number 1, it consists of these little bitty legs from Zeadio. The second piece is this really small, kind of no-name ball head that I've only really seen on Amazon.com, but has really worked well for me for many reasons, and I'll come back to this and its features in a second. And the third piece is an Arca Swiss clamp. Now this can be any clamp you like, but I have multiple copies of this exact Arca Swiss clamp, and it's one of the smallest clamps that I've found that is relatively budget friendly, but also has good gripping power, and it has a couple of other features that I'll touch on as well. So why these exact pieces? Well, first of all, I just wanted a tripod that I could keep in my bag that was just as compact as I could get it, but that also had some weight to it so that when I put something like a mirrorless camera like the Sony FX30 on top of it, that it would not fall over under its own weight. And you can see right there that this camera stays up. Granted, I would usually want to have the lens over one of the legs, but the FX30 and the A7 IV, which I'm filming overhead with, they're heavyish cameras, especially when you get a lens out front. So it needed to be small, but it needed to have some weight to it. And the other part of that whole equation is that it needed a low center of gravity. And these legs sit very low. They're all metal, which gives them more weight, and they are therefore able to provide good stability and not tip over. The ball head is also pretty much all metal, so it's also a bit heavier, adding to the stability and also lowering the center of gravity of the entire tripod. And of course, that third piece being some sort of Arca Swiss clamp on top. Now, you don't have to do this. You could always just take this tripod and screw it directly into the bottom of your camera. But I wanted the ability to mount not only my cameras, but any of my other accessories like this video monitor. I wanted to be able to just take whatever was on the tripod off and then quickly slide on anything else, because I keep Arca Swiss plates on all of my monitors, a lot of my little mini lights. I have an Arca Swiss plate on every camera, even the little ZV-1 Mark II that has a little Arca Swiss plate on the bottom. So keeping an Arca Swiss clamp on the top meant that I could just put any of my gear on this tripod at any time. These 3 pieces have enough weight to where it's not too heavy, it's still compact, and it has its own self-weight. All right, so the legs. I've talked about these legs before. These are by zeadio. You can see that right there. And they do make 2 versions of this. This is the smaller version, I believe it's 11.5 centimeters, and they make a version that's a little longer that is about 18.8 centimeters. I only have the smaller version. I cannot speak to the longer version. Again, my goal was to keep this compact and stable while not taking up too much space when it was sitting on my desk, much like many other mini tripods would. These Zeadio branded legs are all metal with rubber tipped feet. There is a 1/4-20 bolt right on top, an Allen head bolt underneath to tighten up the legs if they get loose, and the top of the tripod stands at just about 2 inches. However, the bad news is that the last 2 sets that I ordered were a bit different, despite me ordering from the same Amazon link and the item coming in the same box with the same barcode. This newer set here felt a bit lighter, and indeed is lighter, as the original legs are about 4.4 to 4.5 ounces and the new version is about 3.8 ounces. And maybe that's a benefit to you, but I preferred the heavier weight, as again, one of my goals was stability, and lighter weight can mean less stable. And this newer version just feels less premium. The legs didn't move as smoothly, and they actually squeak a little bit when you move them. The joints just don't feel as secure, and the legs have gotten loose on this newer set more quickly than the original set. So on the original set here, the ones that I love so much, on the back there's a difference on the newer set as well. On the newer set there's this foamy sponge material which kind of feels cheap and like it's going to come out, whereas on the original set it's metal all the way around. You can see the difference right there. So I'm not sure what is up with this quote-unquote newer set here on the left. They look the same on top, but they do not feel the same, and I feel that this spongy material and the lighter weight and the squeaky legs just makes the new version a little inferior to the original. But given the probable fact that a lot of this equipment is manufactured in China, I'm not too surprised that some of this has changed. It's just unfortunate because it's harder to now find that original set of legs. However, I did find a very similar set of legs that was under the brand name HEIYRC, and this set was actually a bit less expensive and was a bit smaller in overall width, and you can see that width difference here. But this version seems to be that original build quality and without that spongy foam on the back side. So definitely check the item you get. I recommend the version that is fully metal around all sides and mainly the inside of the legs here, and doesn't have that spongy foam material if you can find it and verify that that's what you get when you receive it. And if we measure the leg span, we're at about 7.5 inches from leg to leg. But overall, these legs are just very simple. I actually have 2 more sets of these legs alone that don't have ball heads, but do have Arca Swiss clamps. For example, here is another one that has just an Arca Swiss clamp, and I usually have that right up here holding my teleprompter, and I have 1 more set way over there on the bottom of my Aperture T2C, just holding it upright. It works really well for lights like that. So I really, really like these zeadio legs. They sit low, they have enough heft to them, they feel sturdy, they've served me well, and below I will link to the original set of legs as well as this other brand that I've found that it seems to be the same build quality. And as usual, all the links below are affiliate links. You can use them if you want to, you don't have to, it doesn't cost you anything, but as usual, if you do use them, I get a little bit of commission from Amazon, which is where most of these items are linked to. I appreciate it if you do use those links, but I will leave that up to you. All right, let's talk about the ball head. So we'll take our Arca Swiss clamp off the top. This is one of the smallest ball heads that I could find, because when you look for and search for and purchase miniature or small ball head, a lot of the time they are still quite large. This is one of the other quote unquote smallest ones I could find, and it is still quite large. Get that out of the way. It has a built-in Arca Swiss clamp, so you can't remove or change out the clamp on this particular ball head, whereas this one gives you that 1/4-20 bolt on the top to where you can put anything on top that you want. It measures about 2 1/3 inches from top to bottom, about 1 1/8 inches across without the knobs, and it weighs about 4 ounces. And it has not only that 1/4-20 bolt on the top, but if you unscrew that, you can flip that around, screw it back on, and now you have a cold shoe mount on top, so you can slip on something like a microphone if you find yourself with an accessory that doesn't have a 1/4-20 mount. So this is one of the smallest ones that I could find, but it was very, very important that it have one particular function in it, different from some of the others, and that is a pan only feature. So if we look here, you've got the knob there that releases the ball head, so you can position that any way you want. And it has another knob on the side where you can just pan the ball head itself without changing the angle that you had previously set with the ball head. And I'll demonstrate that. All right, so here's a fully assembled tripod. And if we look at that, if we were to put something on top, like my Sony FX30 here, I will use this at work a lot as my web camera. I'll put it low on the desk like this and just angle it up at myself and try to get my angles right. But if I've noticed something that I needed to plug in, or I need to get around to the buttons on the back, if it were a different ball head, let's take this other Ulanzi ball head that comes with this MT22, MT24, and I've talked about this tripod in one of my other videos. I'll link to that video below. These are great legs, but the ball head it comes with only has the ability to loosen and change the angle with that single knob. There's no pan only function. So with ball heads like this, again, if you needed to just turn the camera a little bit, you'd either have to turn the whole thing, or you would have to grab the camera and support it with one hand while making adjustments. But with the ball head that I found, my little mini one on my custom tripod here, I can set my angle with my camera, and then if I needed to get around to the buttons on the back, or if I needed to grab an HDMI cable and plug it in, or plug in USB-C power so that my camera didn't turn off during the middle of my virtual meeting, then I can just loosen the pan only knob and pan it, get around maybe to the back of the camera while it's still sitting in position, while it's still holding its angle, because this ball head has that pan only function. And I know it seems like something that's really insignificant, but it really became something that when I was using ball heads without a pan only function, it just kind of got annoying. And my work is in live event production, so a lot of times I will have a lot of video monitors, several, I've got 2 right here in front of me, set up at a tech table to where I'm monitoring many things. And when I need to move things around or spin them to change out the battery or something, and you can't actually grab the camera or the monitor and hold it while you make those adjustments, it's just, for me, a necessity to have that pan only function in a very, very compact ball head. And this is the smallest one I can find. I will also link to that one below. All right, let's go back to the Arca Swiss clamp. Now, as I said, I was trying to find the smallest Arca Swiss clamp that I could, and at the time, this was the smallest one. Now, when I say small, I mean a couple of different things. When I started to get into camera gear and into mounting everything via Arca Swiss, I started buying kind of the cheapest plates I could find that were still smallish. This one is very thin, but it is very long. And when you have something like this on top of a tripod, I know it's like things to complain about, but that's kind of ridiculous. It sticks out quite a bit, and although still quite compact, putting this in a bag, sometimes you have to drop the head, and it was bigger than I wanted, so I was able to find one that just wasn't as tall, but was still fairly thin. So I went with this one across most of my tripods. And one of the other earlier Arca Swiss clamps that I bought was this one. This one was just way too big for me to want to carry around in my backpack all the time. It provides a lot more grip, but it's just not something I wanted to carry around. This one has served me very well. And it also has an additional 1/4-20 mount on the front of the clamp in addition to the one on the underside, and it has a large enough knob to feel like I can get good torque on it to lock down my equipment. And as a bonus, if you flip it over, this clamp also has an additional cold shoe mount right on the bottom. So if you were to have something like an L bracket on your camera that had Arca Swiss rails on the side, you could take this and mount that on the side. That gives you a cold shoe mount where you can just mount anything else there on the side of your rig. And it just gives you more options with this particular Arca Swiss clamp. So this one has served me well. And if we measure this, the whole thing is about 3¼ inches from the nose to the end of the knob. And despite the fact that this is about $14 or $15 per clamp, it's still one of the cheapest ones that is also the smallest within that budget category, because there are smaller ones on the market. This is one from Ultralight, and as you can see, let's compare it to my other one. It is a lot smaller in overall size. But the thing about the Ultralight is that it comes with its own plate, which is great, but this is $30. This kit, this Ultralight clamp and Arca Swiss plate, is double the price. You can go for whichever one you like. I do like the Ultralight. It is really ultralight and small and compact, but my one that I've gone with for all 4 of my other tripods just makes them all match, and I just kind of like it when things are all nice and lined up and the same. Hang on, must get it perfect. All right, so let's talk about my alternate variation of this tripod, and that is swapping out the generic Arca Swiss clamp to the Falcam F38 quick release clamp. Now, the Falcam F38 system are also Arca Swiss compatible. These are the plates. They look like almost any other Arca Swiss plate you would find, and they still fit into my generic Arca Swiss clamp. But the cool thing for me about the F38 system is that you get the quick in and out and locking ability of the F38 plates into their own F38 receiving clamps. And they lock in, and you can lock them in even further with this version 2, which has this sliding lock. And once locked in, you can no longer press the button, so your gear that is attached to that plate won't accidentally fall off. You can unlock it there, press it and slide it out. And then on the version 1, you would actually pull the knob out and turn it, and then you can't push it in, and your gear is then locked in. And then to release it, you pull the knob out, turn it back to the front, and then you can press it and release your gear. So I have multiples also now of the Falcam F38 version 1 and version 2 plates, and I've basically swapped out a few of my mini tripods over to having that Falcam F38 quick release clamp on top. And that just means things get even more easy when you have all of the Falcam F38 plates on your gear. I can just take my tripod, get my camera out of my bag, quickly slide it in, lock it, and I'm ready to go. And I don't have to fiddle around with an Arca Swiss clamp. This does require that you have F38 plates on everything, but again, since I've swapped over to that, it just makes swapping out of things a lot easier, a lot quicker, No matter what I put on top of it, just feels more secure. So that is my mini tripod with the alternate option of having that F38 plate on top. But for me, that F38 plate makes this whole thing way more streamlined. You just don't have this Arca Swiss tiny knob coming out the back, and that means I don't always have to fold this up just to slot it into my bag. The version with the F38 plate on top basically is about the same height as the version with the Arca Swiss, but it has less width because of this top. You don't have this T shape when you swap out and use something like an F38 plate and clamp system. And just for measurement's sake, the version with the Arca Swiss clamp measures just about 7 inches tall when it is all folded up. And the F38 version is going to measure just about the same because those plates aren't that much different on top. And when it's deployed, if we take the Arca Swiss clamp off, the height of the ball head, the top of the ball head, is just over about 4 inches. So very low center of gravity. So I think that's it. Just wanted to share this. Some of you have asked about it. It's my favorite one. As you can see, I have lots of copies of this tripod. I keep one here at my desk at all times. I keep one in my camera bag at all times. I keep one with my audio recorder, and that just gives me a couple of extra spares to put in my other bags or to take to work with me. And yeah, I think that's it. Let me know if you have any questions. I will link all this stuff below. Good luck, have fun, and happy filming.